So when you see this and this and even this, you know that spring is here. Whether you're ready or not, spring has came, or at least in my neck of the woods. And I wanted to do a little walk around the property here and give you a look at what some of the fruits and berries are doing. But as usual, spring has caught us off guard. There's a lot of work to do. So let's take a look and we'll get started. But first, let me apologize for the sound. I have not been using a microphone because I've just gotten started, and one of my viewers suggested that I get a mic, and he was right. It's a lot better. But part of this video is recorded without the microphone, and part of it, especially this clip here, is recorded with my new microphone. And I'll put a link at the bottom for this just in case if anyone's interested. But I do apologize. You may have to adjust the volume a little bit, and toward the end it'll perk back up, but I've given you some warnings in there. All right, I'll start off with a Satsuma tree. A Satsuma, if you're not familiar with it, is a citrus tree, and it is primarily grown along the Gulf Coast. It's cold hardy, which means here in the Florida Panhandle it really thrives. And the fruit is much like a tangerine. You can see right here just clusters of blooms ready to come out. The tree will produce so much fruit that we'll actually have to come out and prune some of the blooms off to keep it from overloading itself, because it will. As you can see here, this limb has been staked up to prevent it from bending down and potentially breaking. So the tree is not that big. It's 4 or 5 years old, producing a lot of fruit, and the Satsumas are just so delicious. Very easy to peel, like I said, much like a tangerine, and just a really great fruit. Well, staying with citrus, this is one of our heaviest producers here. This is I'm not exactly sure what it is. This was started from a seedling that we were given years ago, and we kind of just took the pot and left it in a flower garden, flower bed, and we forgot about it for several years. Then lo and behold, we came back, and there was 2 trees growing. Well, I cleaned out the flower bed, got the tree, kind of trimmed up a little bit, and it started producing, and we get just hundreds and hundreds of these. They're like tangerines. But here's the blooms for this year, and again, this is March the 12th, and I think we're going to have a bumper crop this year. Just look at all those nice blooms in there. But it's kind of like a tangerine. There's actually one left on the tree from last year. As I can only get with my reach and ladder so far. There's one left from last year, and I apologize for the shakiness, but that's what they look like. This appears to be just about the last bloom on the Bartlett Pear. Pear tree is only 5 years old, and it's probably 25 feet in height. It's one thing about pear trees, they do grow relatively fast. We had just a handful of pears last year. This year the tree was covered in blooms, and they have since dropped the blooms, and you can see some of the early stages of the pears starting to form. So we're really looking forward to having a good crop of pears this year. And there is a tiny, tiny pear right there. I haven't yet talked about fertilizer, but I'll do that a little later in the year, because I mean, a little later in this video, I should say. I think that's an important part of getting a good crop of fruit off your trees. Blueberries are really a favorite of ours. We have at least 4 different species of blueberries, about 25 plants in total. So in a typical year, we'll get several gallons of blueberries. All of the plants have bloomed. Some have already started forming the berries, as you just saw on that small plant. I think these are, if I'm not mistaken, they may be self-pollinating, but we really have a lot of bee activity here. So again, we do fertilize these to get the most out of the crop. I think we'll have a lot of blueberries this year. This is a persimmon tree. We have about 4 different varieties of persimmons. This is our largest tree, and it produces the smaller oval-shaped persimmons. I'm not sure of the names. That's pretty much what Conchita keeps up with. These are her trees. She really enjoys eating persimmons, and I'm kind of mixed on them. But this species here, you can eat it like an apple right off the tree. It's kind of crunchy, and they're very delicious. I know as a child, we always thought persimmons were something that would really give you a bitter taste, and that's true on some of the different types, but not these. So they're starting to leaf out very well. At least this one is. There's a much smaller one there coming up on the left side of the screen, which still looks dormant, but I know within a matter of days it'll start to leaf out. So these are some persimmons. And even the banana trees are showing some obvious progress with what spring has brought. We did have a mild winter, but our strategy with these bananas are that we do not cut them back. We let them stand, and as you can see in this case, that tree did not die over the winter. It's starting to come back at pretty much full height as what it was. And we do normally get 1 or 2 hands of bananas, and these are the thicker, short and kind of stubby cooking type bananas, but they are quite nice. And one thing that I didn't plant, but it's here and it produces some beautiful flowers, is this wild rose. I think it may be called a Confederate rose, but it is very evasive, or I should say invasive. It is a creeper, and it's slowly inching its way out onto the property. So I'll have to be finding some way to control this. So if you have any ideas on how to control this other than bringing in equipment or something, please let me know in the comments below. We love the flowers, but we would like to keep it controlled. And to talk about rapid growing, figs can be very quick to grow, especially once they get started and they're in good soil. I think they like a little bit of dampness. But this tree here, is it's several years old. I'm not sure how old it is, but it's so large that we've had to prune back some of the large limbs in it just to keep it under control. And it's about the height of this carport structure here. So the figs are really good. They're sweet. They're very, very sweet. And we have to stay out, or actually get out before the birds to get the figs before the birds do. And in the greenhouse we have I think 2 varieties of lemons, 1 variety of lime, and they are pretty good producers. One of them is the Ponderosa lemon, which is just about grapefruit size. They are huge, very delicious, but they do need to be brought in away from the frost in the winter. But they are in a greenhouse which isn't heated. We have tried heating this greenhouse, but the heat just escapes so rapidly, and we haven't been able to find a solution to that. But just staying covered in the greenhouse seems to have been pretty good for these. And I'll just shift around here to this tree. This is Calamansi, or Calamondin. We do have these growing out in the yard. This one just happens to be in the greenhouse, and it has kept its fruit over the winter very well. We pick these occasionally and bring them in to eat, and the way we use these is to use them as a garnish for seafood usually. Just squeeze them over a piece of fish or something like that. So that's about all we have in the greenhouse in terms of fruit. There are many tropical plants in here, and I'm sure I'm overlooking something like there may be an avocado tree in here, but we haven't had any avocados. But it's always fun to try. This is a kumquat tree. I think it's still in the citrus family, and this tree is 10 plus years old. It doesn't grow very fast, but I think we frequently neglect it. We don't really think about it because we don't eat the kumquats. As a matter of fact, the kumquats you see on here are from last season. They need to be picked right away because I know new growth is needing to come out on it. But I'm going to use this tree as a little bit of an experiment. As you can see, it's got this growth on it, and I don't know if you call that an extreme case of scale or some other kind of fungus, but I've got some block oil, I think is what we should use for this. Anyhow, I'm going to try that in some small doses over the next several weeks and see if that'll make a difference with this. But in the meantime, we need to get out here and pick these kumquats and give the tree a chance to flourish again for the upcoming season. Then the last thing I wanted to show you is the vegetable garden, and it is in sad shape. Last year only part of it was planted, so in the background there and over toward the left, that has not been planted for 2 or 3 seasons. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done here. I did get out a few days ago and I turned over this first bed here and worked in some grass clippings that have been there since the fall in hopes of getting some onions in the ground real soon. And I've got some containers that I like to put potatoes in, so we'll try to grow some red potatoes is what we have the best luck with. So although we don't say this garden is organic, we try to keep it as organic as possible. There's no fertilizer that comes in here, and there may be occasions, especially for the tomatoes, where we have to bring in sylvan dust to use as a pesticide. So that is the vegetable garden in sad shape, and I hope when I bring you back here for a look in a few weeks that it won't even be recognizable. It should be in much better shape than this. Well, when I did my first initial walk around the property yesterday to check out the trees and bushes that we usually get fruit or citrus off of, I completely forgot about the olive trees. So here it is the next day, and of course it's overcast, windy. We've got a front that's going to be coming through, I think, later tonight. But we do have 3 olive trees, and they are about 3 years old. The first year we kept them in the greenhouse, and they had some olives. They're kind of a real dark brown, almost a purple looking color. We got these olive trees, I think, from Lowe's, and a lot of times we'll go to Lowe's at the end of the growing season in late September, October, and on discount they had these trees. I think they were like $2 a piece. The previous year to that, we found some blueberries, which were $1 a piece, and they were in 2-gallon buckets, I think, or 1.5 gallon. So we got, I think, 8 or 10 blueberries for $1 a piece. And that's quite a deal. But let me get a little closer. There is new growth on this tree this year already, and I don't see any buds, but it may be a little bit early for that. So I'm glad I got a chance to let you look at the olive trees. Well, now you've seen what's going on here for the spring, and I wanted to wrap this up, but before I do, talk a little bit about fertilizer. I had mentioned that in the vegetable garden we try to keep it as close to organic as possible, but we're not there, and we never will be. Living in this climate here, it's very, very difficult to control insects and things of that nature. So we do, however, use fertilizer on our fruit trees and our berries. For the fruit trees, we found that this right here, these Job spikes for citrus and fruit trees works real well. You can pick those up at any of the big box stores, or you can pick them up online. They're pretty much everywhere. And just read the instructions and go by that, and we've had good luck with using these. For the blueberries, they're quite different because blueberries are an acid-loving plant, so you can't just run out and pick up a bag of blueberry fertilizer. We haven't found that. But what we have found that works well is azalea food. Azaleas are also a acid-loving plant, and the azalea food works well. So I was going to show you a bag of that, but I think we are out of it right now. But you can also pick that up pretty much at any of the big box stores or Walmart, places like that. So I hope you enjoyed this little tour. This is just like I said, the 12th, 13th, 14th of March. I hope to come back and do this again in about 4 to 6 weeks, because here in the Florida Panhandle things change suddenly. I did get my onions in the ground this morning, and I have a lot of work left to do on the garden itself, but we'll come back in a few weeks and revisit all of this and see what's happening. And I hope you have good luck getting your spring started off in your garden, your yard. The only downside to all of this is that very, very soon it'll be grass cutting season, and I spend a lot of my hot months out mowing grass. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you would like to see more of these, please click that subscribe button and we'll see you next time.